All right, guys. So another day, which means another police shooting, right? Which means another protest, okay, and more, basically fake, unjustified outrage from the left. But this time, I wanted to wait a little bit before I commented on this one, as we have Adam Toledo, a 13-year-old boy, who was shot and killed by Mr. Eric Stillman, who is a police officer in Chicago. Okay, now I'm pretty sure you guys have all seen the video. I'm not gonna show it for obvious reasons, even though YouTube has become more lenient about these police videos. But regardless, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it, right? He's running down an alleyway, 13-year-old boy, right, with a gun. Okay, and the police are chasing him. They're telling him to stop, right, to stop, and he doesn't. But for whatever reason, the boy, he ends up like stopping at this like fence, right, in which he turns around, and then as soon as he turns around, the cop shoots him, right? So in this situation, the cop had shot the boy because the boy basically had a gun that was clearly visible, right? And as the boy is turning around, I'm pretty sure it's apparent that the cop did not know whether or not the boy had actually dropped the gun or whether the gun was still in his hand. I mean, that's a split-second decision, right? And the cop essentially made a decision not to chance it and to take the boy's life instead of him potentially losing his life, right? If the boy had decided to turn around and shoot the cop. And I mean, that's basically the gist of it. But, obviously, the outrage left is going to be upset about this, right? So you can see that these are some of the protests that we're seeing as a reaction to this situation.
Down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!
All right, so that's what you can see, right? But I caught a segment from our friend Don Lemon on CNN, and this segment absolutely shocked me, right? Because it was actually a coherent segment from Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo, in which they actually used some nuance to break down the situation in a way that makes sense and that's not racially divisive. Take a look.
Question is The Big Show. CNN tonight, and its big star, D. Lemon.
This is tough, Chris, because, not all police shootings are equal. Nope. And it's really tough when you look at that video. If I'm a police officer out there, if I'm anyone out there, and there's been a shooting and someone is running, and you see that there's regardless of a 13-year-old's life gone, tragic. But if someone's running with a gun and they turn around, police officers have to make decisions in split seconds. And that's why I'm not a police officer, because I couldn't face that kind of pressure. And I just, quite frankly, don't believe that I could do the job. That's why I sit here on TV and analyze it and talk to people about it. So I'm not sure I can make that decision. But when you look at that video and you look at in an instant, the officer probably doesn't know that the kid is 13, right?
Not when he's chasing him.
Not when he's chasing him.
And there was no description of the kids who were there. The 21-year-old and this kid. It was just that they saw them at the scene that had been identified as a shooting, and then they ran, so they chased him. Yeah. One kid was detained at the scene, and we saw what happened with this one. Now, look, it's very important that you point out that not all shootings are the same.
No.
They're all tragic. They all sicken you. And they sicken the people who are involved in the shootings also. This officer was there. He had to administer aid at the scene. He was visibly distressed. He had to get help himself afterwards. So there is agony on many sides after these events. But this is not Derek Chauvin, and this is not that analysis at this point. We don't even know if there is any legal aspect to this beyond the investigation. But the video helps us understand it in a way that if we had to just go on what people say, I don't know how we ever made it through any of these close calls.
Any of it. Listen.
But look, here's what you know about the video. The kid is going to be analyzed in one of two ways by the investigators. Did the officer reasonably believe that when he said stop, stop, drop it, that the kid had something and turned and he had to make a decision, or no, the kid listened to you. You saw him drop the gun. He turned. There was nothing in his hand.
Even in that, though, Chris, even in that, how does one know if you're a police officer, if you're anyone, if someone comes into your house and you're like, drop the gun, and they turn around, you don't know if they're following your command, or you don't know if they're, you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So again, these
you
are
have 0.8 seconds to decide.
and you have an instant to decide. But there are a couple of things. I agree that it's tough. I understand why the officer's upset. The officer doesn't know that the kid is 13, doesn't know it's 21. I don't, the whole idea of, well, the kid should have been in school and it's a gang member. We don't need to go there at this point.
Don Lemon ain't made this much sense since he told people to pull their pants up after agreeing with Bill O'Reilly.
There is so much violence and chaos in the black precincts is the disintegration of the African-American family.
He's got a point. In fact, he's got more than a point. Bill?
Raised without much structure, young black men often reject education and gravitate towards the street culture, drugs, hustling, gangs. Nobody forces them to do that. Again, it is a personal decision.
He is right about that too. But in my estimation, he doesn't go far enough. Because black people, if you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing. Here's number 5. And if this doesn't apply to you, if you're not doing this, then it doesn't apply to you. I'm not talking about you. Here's number 5. Pull up your pants. Some people, a lot of them black, gave me flack for saying that recently on the Wendy Williams show. If you're sagging, it means I think it's your self-esteem is sagging and who you are as a person. It's sagging. Young people need to be taught respect, and there are rules. Sagging pants, whether it's Justin Bieber or no-name Derek around the way, walking around with your ass and your underwear showing is not okay. In fact, it comes from prison when they take away belts from the prisoner so that they can't make a weapon. And then it evolved into which role a prisoner would have during male-on-male prison sex. The one with the really low pants is a submissive one. You get my point?
I don't know, guys. Maybe it's just me, but maybe CNN's ratings would rise if they actually start having some common sense segments again, okay? But in regards to Don Lemon here seemingly defending the police, yes, I know, guys, that was a surprise, right? I was just as surprised as you guys was to see an intelligent conversation between Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo in which they're actually using logic, right, and facts and perspective and understanding that this police officer made a split-second decision, okay? But what I disagree with Don Lemon here is the idea that, you know, we shouldn't question more about the boy in regards to why is a 13-year-old boy running through a back alley in Chicago with a gun, right? And in this situation, you know, this is happening in Chicago, with a city that has been notorious for gang violence, okay? And so I think it is legitimate to ask, because this boy should never have been on the streets in the first place, okay? And part of how we solve the whole police issue, right, if you want to define it as an issue, is preventing interactions with the police in the first place, right? This 13-year-old kid should have been in bed, sleep, getting ready to go to school the next morning. He should not have been out at 2 a.m. where there's people outside shooting on a street corner, right? Which is why the police had to come in the first place. And in a situation like that, yeah, if I'm a cop, I ain't gonna take no chances, right? I ain't gonna take no chances. These dudes are some shooters, right? These are some shooters, okay? Even as a 13-year-old boy, these guys, hey, they killers, right? They're being raised to be killers. So with that being said, you know, hey, I don't blame the cop, okay, in that situation. And I'm glad that Don Lemon had highlighted that. But again, we must ask the question of why, right? Why is that 13-year-old boy in that situation in the first place, okay? And I challenge these loonies on the left to start to protest all the violence and killings that are happening to children, to kids, and adults in Chicago, right? If you guys are so upset with the violence, because that's what you say, stop the violence, stop the violence. Okay, remember, guys, we all know the statistics on police officers. I think Adam Toledo was Hispanic, so it's probably about, 130 some Hispanics, less than 200, right? About 100 or so, between 100 and 200 Hispanics killed per year by police officers, okay? But that's nothing compared to all the people that are killed in Chicago per year. In 2020, guys, Chicago had 769 murders, right? That was up from 495 in 2019. So the murders just in Chicago, outside of police, okay, are more than the people that are shot and killed by police in terms of black and Hispanic people combined. But yet y'all out in the street protesting because the police killed a 13-year-old boy who had a gun. But y'all don't want to protest the almost 800 murders in Chicago that happened in 1 year. You don't want to protest that. You don't want to go in these neighborhoods with these gangs and protest in their neighborhoods, do you? You don't want to do that. Because you're afraid. You're afraid what might happen. But you're not afraid of the police. That's why you are comfortable protesting the police. But yet, what's the narrative? The narrative is not about, okay, the gang activity in Chicago and why a 13-year-old boy has a gun. No, that's not the narrative. That's not what the media is talking about. The media wants to talk about how can we reform the police. Well, why are we not talking about how we reform gangs? Right? That's what we need to be talking about. And see, like I said, guys, the fact that they're willing to protest the police, but they're not willing to protest in these gang neighborhoods, that tells you everything they need to know about how serious the police issue really is in this country. It's not. For all the rhetoric that people like Cori Bush, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, all these woke revolutionaries put out there, for all that rhetoric, none of them will protest in a gang neighborhood, right? At the crack house, the same way they will protest at a police station or try to protest the police, because they know that police are not the real threat in this country. But they try to scapegoat police as a way to push and promote themselves politically, as if they're solving a real problem, a problem that really it does not affect anybody who's not, again, out at 2 a.m. in the morning with a gun while people are shooting, right? I mean, this stuff is not hard. This stuff is not hard. Okay? So it's just funny to me in this upside down world that we live in that we're seeing somebody like Don Lemon actually have some common sense, right? In regards to this situation, instead of outraging and race baiting like the rest of the people that's on his side of the aisle. So congrats to Don Lemon on that, okay, and Chris Cuomo, right? I give credit where credit is due. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.